If somebody, an average person watching this, I work a job, I have $0 to $10,000 put away, how do I now go from this to $100,000 as fast as possible?
100%. What a great question. So what I did when I was right out of college working my 9 to 5, I was making about $65,000 a year, which was a great salary. I was taking home every single month around $3,800. I had student loans. I had a little bit of credit card debt. I mean, I was the average person. The steps I took were the following. One, realized that if I wanted to get somewhere worth going, aka this first $100,000 invested, I needed to be intentional with my money, which means I need to make a budget, right? I feel like a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, they might think that they can out-earn making a budget, or budgets are for poor people, or budgets are this or that. You got to get rid of that mindset. Having a budget, in my opinion, is the permission to spend money on things that matter most to you. And so I made that budget. The budget, obviously, like everyone else's budget, you got the groceries, utilities, the rent, the this and that. But more importantly, it's once you figured out what you're spending and what that margin is in your budget, what you're doing with the margin, right? And so to your point, let's say this person has $0 to $10,000. Maybe they've, found the margin. They've been able to pay off any high interest debt, if that's credit cards, personal loans, IRS debt, whatever that might be. And they've perhaps been able to build that first 3 to 6 months of expenses, which are also really important, because if you don't have a little bit of cushion between you and life does happen, then you revert back to the credit card as sort of a crutch, right? You don't want to do that.
So let me ask you a question here. So let's just say somebody's making $5,000 a month after taxes.
Mm-hmm.
How much now should they spend versus invest versus save versus pay down debt? Because there's a lot of different moving parts to even that budget part. What does somebody look for?
Well, I mean, we've all heard of the 50-30-20 rule, right? 50% goes towards, so 50% of that 5,000, 2,500 goes towards your needs, 30% goes to wants, and 20% goes to saving and investing. I think that's a fine general outline, but I really want to encourage people listening right now. I mean, they follow you for a reason. They're smart. I really want to encourage people listening right now to be as intentional with your money as possible. I mean, what I simply do every single month to start, and I use an app called Copilot. I've used Mint. I've used EveryDollar. I've used all these different budgeting apps in the past, but I want people to be really intentional with this money. So they have this $5,000. The first thing you need to be thinking about is, what are the things I absolutely have to pay every single month to exist and go to work and make money, right? So I need to have my rent. I need some decent groceries. I need some, utilities, Wi-Fi, stuff like that, my phone. I need reliable transportation. I'm not getting too extravagant with it, right? I don't have a crazy car payment, but it's kind of how I tried to break things up back in the day, and still do today, which is your fixed expenses and your variable expenses. If you can figure out what your fixed expenses every single month are, and you can predict those, then you can now say, okay, I know that I'm going to earn or take home X amount of dollars over the next 12 months. So all of 2024, I'm going to have, this is going to be my take home salary, because you already know what your paycheck is. You can multiply it by 26 if you get paid every 2 weeks, or 24 if you get paid twice a month. You know what you're taking home. You know now exactly how much is going to get paid out to your fixed expenses, which means, wait a second, I now have this extra, whatever that number is, every single month or throughout the year of 2024 to my variable expenses. Now, those variable expenses might be eating out, it might be vacation, it might be this and that, but these are things that you don't exactly have to spend money on these things to survive, go to work, do your stuff throughout your normal job. So for the person who's trying to go from 0 to 10K to that first 100K, they have to know where the margin is in their budget, which are the variable expenses, and be very intentional with, okay, am I maxing out my Roth IRA every year, right? Because that's very important, right? The goal here is to get $100,000, as we know, the first 100K invested in the markets. That's when compound interest really begins to do its work. So if we're taking the easy steps here, obviously Dave Ramsey says match beats Roth beats traditional. I largely agree with that. Some people listening right now might not have a match from a 401k, right? An employer here. So if that's the case, then go straight to that Roth IRA. That's $7,000 this year. But you're saying, wait a second, okay, I've got my let's say they're doing the 7,000. Let's say they're also doing maybe the 20 or 23,000 that's going on with the 401k, and maybe they've got an extra 5 or 10 grand left over. That's sort of what I've begun to say and start taking, like, wait a second, I'm using my extra money to begin putting it in a traditional taxable brokerage account that can generate me income. And the reason why that's so important is because, these other retirement accounts, again, you can't touch them until you're 59 and a half. But if I can have this account be a very specific theme or strategy to it, and it can generate income for me, I can then take that income, reinvest it back into that, or use that. And maybe the income I generate here will be how I max out my Roth IRA the next year. I've got a couple strategies and ideas on ways that I do that. But
so
I'm
before
sure
we
you probably have a
jump into
question.
that,
Yeah.
so I want to clarify. So you're saying step number one is create a budget.
Yes.
Understand where your money is going. Number two, it sounds like looking at your variable expenses and being very mindful about them. Maybe
Absolutely.
cutting back on some of these expenses. Then number three is maximizing your investments. If you enjoyed this short clip from my longer videos, here's another clip that I think you'll love. And while you're at it, if you're interested in learning more about how to start generating passive income, our team put together an amazing guide on how to start generating passive income for free. All you got to do is click that button right over there. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep hustling.